Here's my
Test,
ASL for
test,
you. You
test.
ready?
How's that, guys? I think you're getting it now. Hang on. Hang on. It's coming.
I love you.
There's a slight delay.
Aww. Get our marker and whiteboard.
You don't have it yet? Wait, no sound?
No.
Still no sound?
Okay,
it's
yes.
impossible. You got sound? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I was like, I knew it had to work now.
Yes.
So, just so you guys know, there's this little thing down here that was checked. It was a mute button.
But I tried to fix that. No,
Yeah.
but I tried to fix it.
Don't click it next time.
And you know what? I'm not good at technology, but that's not my gift. That's why I married him. Everybody. Okay, good. Woo! You know what? That's okay. I got to dance for you a little bit. I got to say I love you. Now I'm going to smudge you because technical difficulties have to be smudged away. That's my hubs. He's real good. He's truly the smartest person I've ever met. My husband is. And you know what I find? I'm writing a book on relationships, by the way. And one of the things I find is that more than anything, you know, during difficult times in a relationship, during stressful times, I've been with him for 17 years, so, you know, we've had our share. It's someone's soul and it's their brilliance, I think, that keeps you, you know, connected for all those years, through ups and downs, through having kids, through, you know, moving 100 times, which we have, through all the different stresses that happen. So anyway, I appreciate you, and he does too. Thank God for Dave. Okay, yeah, technology is great when it works. Okay, so I have so much to tell you about tonight. How are you guys? I really missed you. I really, really, really missed you. I was in New York this week with some exciting things coming that I can't talk too much about right now, but Sage Goddess is expanding in some fun and interesting ways, so I look forward to being able to tell you all about that. I'm a little jet lagged, but not too bad, because as you know, coming from the East Coast to the West Coast is easy. It's going from the West Coast to the East Coast that's really hard. I had a 9 a.m. meeting on Thursday in Manhattan, and it was that, you know, of course, the meeting time, 9 a.m. is 6 a.m. Pacific time, so me getting up at like 4 a.m. Pacific time, I was a little tired. But I'm back, and I am ready to rock and roll. What I was saying about relationships is just that I actually think, for me anyway, because I'm an intellectual person, for me to be in a relationship and to be in it to win it with somebody, they have to be smart. I like to have really deep philosophical conversations. I like to have really deep political conversations. I like to have deep historical conversations. And so I've always prioritized intelligence and quick-wittedness above almost everything else in a relationship. Fortunately, I married somebody who had all the other things too. So if you get lucky, you'll get all the things. But I will tell you, that's one of my values is intelligence. But my kind of intelligence is a breadth of intelligence. I like to talk to people who know a lot about a lot of different things. Are you that way too? Like, I'm not as much interested in people who know politics really well and can talk about it backwards and forwards, but then if you start talking to them about the environment or you start talking to them about history, they're sort of like, I don't know. I'm more interested in people who know a little bit about a lot. You know, like I enjoy good conversation, don't you? And so just anybody who can hold my attention in a long conversation. And here's the other thing that I really like, and I'm sure you know this from having been students in my classes, but I like to go all over the place in a conversation. I like to start talking about Egypt and end up talking about weight loss and then come back to politics and then talk about, you know, the history of the American presidency and then talk about, you know, the Spanish Inquisition, and then I like to talk about climate change. And I need somebody who can kind of go on that ride with me, at least a little bit, or I won't stay engaged for very long. Terry says, no one knows politics too well. Lord. Well, you know, we're talking about New York because that's not the primary reason for my purpose. It's actually something else, something bigger actually is happening with Sage Goddess than a store opening. But that's part of the conversation is, you know, what does an East Coast imprint look like, a footprint for us, for Sage Goddess? And so those conversations are happening. It's very, very good. So, and here's the thing. I mean, when I was on the East Coast, I could feel all of you guys. It's so funny. As soon as we landed, I was like, I feel them. And it's so fun because energy is very real. Like the closer we get in proximity to each other, and we don't have to be close in proximity. I mean, even if we never are in the same city together, I don't think it matters. We have such a strong energetic contact. Everybody in our community is so in sync with each other in magical ways. But there was something about being on your coast that was really special. And it's like I felt like I plugged into your grid a little bit. So hopefully you felt the little bump of my energy in your field, because I really was intentionally sending it, especially to those of you who I know are there. And that's all the way down the seaboard, right? All the way to those of you who are in Florida. So very exciting. I know. I was in Manhattan. That's, one of the projects we're working on is in Manhattan, but we're talking about how to be present on the East Coast in general, and that could look like a lot of different things. So we'll keep you posted. I know. Well, Cindy Conti, guess what? And I told you this on Facebook. I'm coming for you next time. So, because I had this whole vision of having a meetup in Manhattan that Cindy Conti helped me organize. I had this whole vision of it, and so I hope that you will be interested in doing that with me, Cindy. But I actually would really like to recruit your help when I come back, because I think it'd be really fun to plan, like maybe with a month or two notice, a meetup in Manhattan somewhere. And so, anyway, we'll talk about that as the time comes closer. I will be back to you soon. Tonight we are talking about tetragonal crystals. And, in the other sessions, we've gone more technical and kept our focus there. I will tell you, this session is going to be a little bit different because what I've been guided to do with you tonight, the metaphysical properties of tonight's stones are so important for you to know and so important for you to work with that we're actually going to do a guided meditation. And I'm going to teach you some, I love it. I'm reading your comments and trying to stay focused, but I think it'll be really fun. We're talking about a Midwest meetup too, because I have a lot of friends and extended family and dear customers and clients in Ohio and Iowa. And in fact, one of my closest staff members here is from Ohio. And so she has said she would help me with a meetup in Ohio, which would get all of our Midwest family together. So anyway, these things are, as the books start coming, you guys, in the fall, you're going to start hearing about book tours and things like that. And so a lot of the meetups will probably be around the books to be able to come and sign your books and meet you and talk to you in those ways too. So there's a lot coming. And Georgia, for goodness sake, is one of my favorite states in the United States, especially Savannah. I love all of Georgia, but spent a good chunk of time in Savannah. In fact, I almost had a professorship in Savannah. I was going to be teaching anyway, it's a long story. We don't talk about it tonight. But I was offered a job teaching in Georgia at a satellite campus in Savannah. So it was like a whole other lifetime ago. I spent all that time down there. I still love it. We're talking about New Orleans maybe in the fall again. So it's all this, the Denver Gem Show and a lot of other things happening. So I will keep you guys posted. But the joy for me truly is coming to where you are and being able to see you. And we're going to try to do more of that over the next couple of years in order to come to where you are. Because I know sometimes it's hard for you to come to where I am, but I'm hoping if I can get somewhere regionally close to you that we could spend some time together. Lorraine's asking about Canada. Canada has to happen. Do you know outside the U.S., Canada is the largest audience for Sage Goddess in the world? Following up closely to that would be Australia and then the UK. But Canada is where a good chunk of our base is. So I have a lot of love for Canada. And again, not just in our customer base, but in my extended family and friends and so forth. So who knows? That could happen. But Canada is near and dear to our heart here at Sage Goddess. Okay, so let's talk about tetragonal crystals. And then hopefully you're joining me at 5 p.m. is my weight loss class. And so if you purchased a ticket, I'm going to stop at 4:55 to take a 5-minute break to change over my notes and so forth. And then starting at 5 o'clock from 5 to 6, I'm going to be teaching you my second installment of the weight loss class. And tonight's focus is on clearing out everything stuck in your chakras, which may sound crazy, but it's actually the missing key to why a lot of us have not lost the weight that we want to lose. When you go in and actively clear blockages in the chakras, you will be amazed, especially the lower chakras. It's a lot of the reason why people carry their weight from the waist down. So we'll talk more about that next hour. So fun. Well, Austin is magic. Bobby's saying Nature Treasure Rock Shop. I mean, Austin has some fantastic places. In fact, there's a lot of cities around the country where they still have some really great rock shops and some really great venues. And I'm in conversations with people like who might want to host me, when we come to these cities. And I would love to be at some of your favorite crystal shops and be able to support those shops while we come around and talk about Sage Goddess, right? All right, cool. So if you have your ticket for next hour, if you just purchased it, it'll be emailed to you, and then you'll be able to click right on that and join us from 5 to 6 for a different conversation, but a complimentary conversation. Okay, so we're talking tonight about rose quartz. Our theme is ascension, as you know. We're talking about apophyllite, which is this little gorgeous creature right here. We're going to be doing a meditation with this guy tonight. And then we're talking about rutilated quartz, which is this beauty right here. And those gold or red or even black or silver bands in your quartz are rutile. We're going to talk all about rutile tonight and why it's so important metaphysically for you to connect with rutilated quartz. I'm gonna make sort of a grand statement. Are you ready? Of all of these sets for GemWise for the entire year, this is the one for you to work with if, okay? None of the other sets are going to bring you as close to source energy as this set is. This truly is an ascension set. I'm going to be talking to you the way I think about this set. This is the ladder to heaven. This is the stairway to heaven. This is the bridge between you in your conscious waking state and the divine. And, you know, we talk about that a lot. One of the things I'm sort of careful about is in metaphysical circles, things start to sound trite sometimes. It's like, gosh, isn't every stone for the divine? Isn't every stone for ascension? Isn't every stone for transformation? A lot of stones are. But I will tell you that the three we're talking about tonight have very specific uses and very specific reasons why you will want to work with them. And so even though they're somewhat familiar to you, you know, you might say, well, rose quartz, don't I know everything there is to know about rose quartz? Maybe you do, but there's a little bit tonight that I bet you don't know. Same with rutilated quartz. And apophyllite, did you know, is one of the most powerful stones you can work with for astral travel. Apophyllite actually allows you, and we'll talk more about this when we get to this stone. Apophyllite is a time link. Okay, it is an entrance. It's a stargate, and I'm not exaggerating that. And in fact, anyone serious about crystals and metaphysics you talk to and say, "Tell me about astrophyllite or apophyllite, not astrophyllite," is likely to have a pretty intense story to share with you. I certainly do. And one of the things you can do with apophyllite that is very important, and we're going to have a little taste of it tonight, is you can actually go and access what we call the Akasha or the Akashic records. The Akashic records are a record that exists in the universe of every event that has ever transpired, is transpiring now, or ever will transpire to the end of time. Okay, and this is the only stone, in my experience, but also documented by other people in metaphysics who you respect and admire. This is the only stone that allows you to consciously access the Akashic records without going into an altered state of consciousness. And beyond that, it allows you to access the Akashic records, and because it's a time link, it actually allows you to pull that information, past, present, or future, into the present moment in a usable way. That may not sound like much, but truly when I tell you, there isn't another stone that can do that. You know, people come to me and they're like, I want to work with the Akashic records. And what I say to them is, are you working with apophyllite? Because if you're not, the Akasha, and I want to make sure I'm reading your comments correctly. If you guys are losing sound, please let us know. As far as I can tell, it's working for everybody, but I just want to make sure that those of you who are having trouble, check and see if it's your computer first, because I think we're probably good. So we're going to talk, and I'm also going to connect it to the essential oils a little bit tonight, because if you are in Aromagic 2, there are certain oils you can use, among them Apoponax for obvious reasons, that if you partner Apoponax, for example, which, by the way, did you guys see that there's samples today? There's a whole listing for essential oil samples, finally. You guys have been asking, because you know how we do the sample trios of our different grades of perfumes? Now there's the essential oil sample trios. It just launched today, and they're 17% off with code FIREWORK, by the way, which is crazy. But anyway, if you don't have a Apoponax, grab a sample of it today with that listing. And after tonight, use the meditation, use the format that I'm going to teach you tonight, and see what kind of an experience you have. If you're already in Aromagic and you have the Apoponax and you have tonight's kit, try it tonight. We'll talk a little bit about astral travel because you do want to prepare. Astral travel isn't something where it's 10 o'clock at night and you go, you know what, I think I'll astral travel tonight and lay down and go. It's a process, and you have to be intentional about it. There are certain moon phases that are better aspected for astral travel than others. And so anyway, I'm sort of like setting the stage for this. If I forget to come back to some of these points, will you please remind me? But I just want to be clear that whenever I teach you about something as serious as astral travel, that I also give you a protocol, a little bit of a process so that you don't walk into it blind, because people do have, that's so awesome, people do have negative experiences with astral travel, and I think part of it is in pop culture, people talk about it, and some people lay down, they're like, I'm ready to astral travel, and they have no idea. I mean, you have to open a sacred circle, you have to speak some words of invocation, you have to open a container so that you're safe and protected, to make sure you have the right tools with you. You have to be clear, and I actually call in specific guides for astral travel. We're going to talk about that tonight. Just calling in those guides, because there are guides who support you when you travel outside your body. Whether you realize it or not, you do travel outside your body pretty frequently. Sometimes, and it's a little scary. Have you ever had those moments where you're driving and all of a sudden you think to yourself, because you're on autopilot, you think to yourself, whoa, what just happened? Like, it's almost like you don't remember the last mile that you drove. When that happens, that throws me off a little bit. It doesn't happen too often, and I've always been safe, but I've set the intention clearly with my guides that I only wish to leave my body at times when I consciously intend as much. And I prefer to do it during dream time, because when they yank you out of your body and you start going, all of a sudden you look around and you realize, well, I lost 5 minutes. You know what I mean? And that's astral travel. That's you leaving your body. And what's really interesting is, the more you get into quantum physics and quantum mechanics, it's possible to do that and still be very conscious, and in fact having conscious conversations while you're astrally traveling. And that blows people's minds a little bit, but it's very possible to do both at the same time. I mean, I could be astrally traveling now. Like I said, I've done it before where I know I astrally traveled and was driving. And then set a very clear boundary with my guides, like, look, I don't care what's going on. My physical safety is to be first and foremost. I don't wish to travel astrally while I while I drive. Right? So we'll talk about all that tonight and see what you wouldn't that be a fun bonus class? I'm thinking about it. One of the things that's on my mind, I don't know if you guys are interested in this, but I thought about doing a bonus class on runes just for holistic healer members, because a lot of people are asking for rune classes, and I'm trying to figure out like what that content looks like and how to deliver it. And so I figured those of you who are in holistic healer might be the prime audience who wants to learn how to use runes, how to throw runes or read runes, and how to interpret them. So anyway, all of this is in conversation, but we can always I still have a Lemuria part 2 that I'm going to be doing as a bonus session, and we can certainly do one on astral travel. And maybe one of the things that we could do, you guys, is sort of expand it outside of just astral travel to be more of a course on projection in general. It ties to the holographic content that we've been talking about in Magical Sabbatical, because really what you're doing when you astrally travel is you're projecting a hologram of yourself outside of your body. So anyway, all of this is like the wheels are all turning in my mind. So I just want you to know I don't forget. I always hold on to these ideas, but then have to come back to them at a different time. And then this month in Sabbatical, we're doing Elder Council in July, which I know a lot of you are really excited about. That's the most popular sabbatical session. I do them 4 times a year. Elder Council is a place in meditation that we go to where your guides are waiting to connect with you and to teach you and to offer you wisdom for the season ahead. I think we're doing it on July 11th. We're announcing that date, so please save the date. So there's other things happening too, bonus sessions that are coming up in the classes too. I know. Can you imagine? Well, and here's the thing. And again, I don't want to get too far off topic, but if we do the astral travel class, I will talk about this with you. Do you know it's possible to have soulmate relationships that are astral, where you never connect in the physical? They're actually very powerful relationships, and that's also an intention that you can set. And I've worked with people, I'm working with some people now, who had a difficult time finding a soulmate relationship in the material, but have actually been able to connect with a twin flame or soulmate in the astral, and are having a very potent connection with that spirit on a conscious level. And so this whole idea of astral love is very powerful and very real for a lot of people. Not to say that it takes away from wanting something physical, in this lifetime, but it certainly is satisfying the needs of quite a few people who are able to have those astral connections in the etheric realm. Yeah, it's very powerful. I do think you have to give permission for that to happen. I don't think spirit's just attached to you, but I have had the experience, and like I said, I'm working with people now who are doing it and enjoying it, where they have set the intention and the spirit has come in dream time, and then there's no risk of getting pregnant necessarily. Although I do think that I actually had a case of a woman who believes that she was having an astral connection and then met the person in the physical after they had been having this astral relationship. And so it turned out that they were both astrally projecting. She thought he was on the other side, but he was just astrally projecting to meet her in the etheric, because that felt safe to her. And then when she was willing to actually meet him in the material, they did meet. Almost sounds like a script for a Hollywood movie, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting what's possible. And I hear all the stories because, in my role, people come to me and go, here's what I'm doing. And I think it's fascinating because I think it's all possible. I think it's just a matter of what you believe and what you're open to. So, okay. So tonight our theme, so here's the theme I want you to think about. When you think about tonight's 3 stones, this is your conscious link to the divine. The stones for tonight are a conscious link to the divine. And so if you've been feeling like I'm disconnected from source, or I've lost my connection to God, or are my guides there? Am I supported? Am I on the right path? Is this what I'm meant to be doing? Why don't I feel fulfilled? These are the stones that are going to resolve all of that for you. This is also, these are out of body stones. And so if you've been looking to have more of an astral experience, or if you're looking to have that astral love connection, honestly, if you came to me and said, you know what, that astral love thing you're talking about, I'm kind of interested in exploring that. What stones would I use? There's nothing outside of tonight's GemWise set that I would recommend for you. You have everything you need. So if that's a concept you want to explore, I think it's worth exploring. Now, I had one student come to me and say, so I'm having this astral partnership and I'm married. To which I said, that's something you have to work out. You know what I mean? If you, in terms of the ethics of it and what does it mean to have an astral partnership, and, does that compromise the state of your current partnership? And if you're not polyamorous with your partner, should you disclose to your partner that you're having an astral connection? Is your partner going to look at you like you have 6 heads when you tell him you're having an astral relationship? All this and more on the next GemWise, everybody. I don't know the answers to all these questions, but we're asking interesting questions, and it's opening some interesting doors for people who are open to it. Yeah, so apophyllite comes in pink and green and white. And so it's very possible, I think it was Lauren. Yeah, Lauren said she has a bicolored apophyllite. That's very possible because they grow in this sort of range of colors, which possibly has to do, in most cases, has to do with heat, right? So how hot did it get in the mine, and that causes a color change in the stone. That's so funny. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to smudge first and just open our beautiful container for our class. I know I smudged already, but why not do it one more time? So just removing any energy from the space, from my tools. Clearing any energy from the field that isn't in service to or alignment with the highest good of myself and those who are watching. Always pass your smudge behind you. You have a potent energy field behind you, and it gets neglected. And a lot of times psychic attack comes from behind. It's an interesting concept, isn't it? We're always protected from the front. Have you ever seen somebody smudge themselves behind? Probably not. I'm one of the few people I ever see doing it. And you have to, because your energy field extends all the way around you. Okay, and so just opening the container. If you have a double apophyllite, that is very lucky. If you have a double terminated apophyllite point, I don't have one. Mine is not double. But if you got a double, you have a very special piece. There were some doubles in the mix. So, so if you got one of those, that's very special. They all look like they have bands, almost like Lemurian lines. Did you notice it? On the flat sides of your pyramid, they call these pyramids, by the way, apophyllite pyramids. And on the flat side, they all have these little like Lemurian type lines. And I leave that to you. They're not Lemurian, not in a formal way, but there are people who feel like Lemurian crystals with these lines were actually implanted much farther and much wider than anybody talks about. And I'm interested in that concept too, because I think it's almost too simple to think, oh, all the Lemurian crystals were deposited at Mount Shasta, California, and Minas Gerais, Brazil. It almost seems too simple. I actually vote for the theory that says that Lemurian crystals were dispersed more widely across our planet. Oh, it's so beautiful. A lot of you have doubles. I was excited actually, because when the apophyllite came for this kit, I thought the quality was incredible, and a lot of them did have doubles. There were interesting markings on them and stuff, so I was very excited to pass the quality of those on to you. Okay, so we're going to begin tonight with this tetragonal conversation with our rutilated quartz. That's where I want to start tonight's conversation. Rutile. So rutile, actually the root of the word rutile, and it's my camera can't really pick it up so well, but we're looking for the little bands of gold or red. Rutile comes in gold, red, black. Silver is the rarest of all rutile colors. And when you see the silver, it's called Venus hair. And in terms of like dollar value of rutile, it's the most valuable. This is a piece that has silver and bronze rutile. This is actually a listing right now on sagegoddess.com. I'm trying to see if I can show it to you so that you can see the bands of rutile. It's tricky to see. Oh, there you go, right there, you can see. So this has a combination of the silver hair with bronze. Whenever you buy rutile from us, you can always ask in your comments if you really want a piece of silver or bronze, and if we have it, we'll send it to you. This one has all kinds of what we call enmeshed rutile, which is rutile that's growing at perpendicular angles to each other. So there's a ton of enmeshing here on these pieces. But these are gemmier pieces, also higher price point too. Okay. But those are on the website if you want them. Code Firework. Don't forget code Firework if you buy anything right now. I feel terrible when people say I forgot the code, because it's almost 20% off with code Firework for Independence Day weekend. So let's start with rutilated quartz. I'm going to run through the information and then we're going to do a brief meditation with it. It's fun, isn't it? Jody has the necklace. You should have at least one piece of rutilated quartz in your collection. I'm a collector of rutile because I like to see all the different colors and work with it. Oh, it's good. Betsy wants a class on runes, so I'll keep that in mind. Jackie's got bronze. So the bronze and the silver are the rarest, and then it goes red, then it goes gold, and then it goes black. And sometimes there's green, but that's between the gold and the black in terms of rarity. Now, the gold is the color of transformation and change. So most of what I'm telling you about tonight in terms of metaphysical properties for rutile actually pertains primarily to the gold. So if you have a gold piece, I'm really speaking to the properties of your piece. Mine has gold too, so that's what we're focusing on for tonight. Let's go through the correspondences. Rutilated quartz aligns to all chakras, so you can use it from crown to root. It's a 7 on the Mohs scale of hardness. Remember, the Mohs scale is the measure of hardness scale, and it tells you about the durability of your stone. The Mohs scale matters because you don't want to, it goes from scale 1 to 10. The only gemstone, the only mineral that's a 10 on the measure of hardness scale is a diamond. Okay? Everything else is between a 1 and a 9. And really the only 9s are ruby and sapphire. The corundums are a 9 on the measure of hardness scale. So ruby, sapphire, and diamond, you can pretty much wear them in any jewelry in any form and you're not going to break them. You're going to break before your diamond breaks is always what I tell people. But so when you get to the quartz family, all quartz is a 7 on the measure of hardness scale. So if you have any form of quartz, rutilated quartz, tourmalinated quartz, smoky quartz, rose quartz, lemon quartz, citrine, any form of quartz at all, is going to be a 7 on the measure of hardness scale. So the good news is you don't have to go back and do your research. You're just going to know that. So it's a 7 for the rutilated quartz tonight, which is from Brazil. Comes to you from Minas Gerais. All of our rutilated quartz is from Brazil. It does grow in other places in the world. We just don't source it there. We really trust our Brazilian suppliers in terms of quality. So we just have found someone we love and we go with it. But it does grow in a few other countries around the world. It is aligned with all of the air signs, primarily Gemini and Libra, which doesn't surprise you when you think about the fact that rutilated quartz is about transformation. It's about change. And what do the air signs do? All of the air signs come through, and it's like a breath of fresh air, right? And what's beautiful about that is stones like this, when you're stuck, will unstick you. But also when you're rigid and stubborn, that's when rutilated quartz has good medicine for you, because it's going to come through and say, you can't keep doing things the way you've always been doing them. That's the message of rutilated quartz. If you're stuck in a rut, the universe is going to push you out of that rut. That's the nature of life. And so the question becomes, do you go with the flow? Like when the universe comes and prods you and pushes you and says it's time to change, do you go, okay, and go with the flow? Or do you put up your hand and say, I'm not doing it. I'm comfortable. I'm happy. I don't want to change. And so the people who struggle, it's true, the people who struggle with rutilated quartz as a stone, and there are people who are like, nope, I don't want it. I don't like rutilated quartz. Those are the people who the universe is trying to nudge them because they're stuck and they're there going, I don't want to do it. So, and that tends to be the earth signs. The earth signs tend to get stuck and frustrated and a little bit obstinate, don't they? The air signs are always like, wee, all my Geminis and all my Libras and my Aquarius for sure. are always the ones who are like, yeah, you know what? Let's switch it up. Let's do something different. I'm down. Let's explore something new. And so you guys are actually going to have the strongest energetic affiliation with the stone because the stone is in alignment with you. It's already doing something. It's that you're ready to do, and in fact that you've perfected. Because the air signs are the ones who teach us about. And a lot of you are air signs. Isn't that interesting? Dawn is Gemini rising, has 3 planets in Libra in her chart. But Teresa says she's a Gemini who needs a kick in the butt. So maybe tonight is your is your night, Teresa, whether you're ready or not. Well, and it's okay. Rachel's asking a great question actually, because there's mutability, right? So there's fixed and mutable, and so that whether your sign is fixed or mutable is just really about how and to what extent you're willing to go with that flow. And each one of the signs has a fixed component. There's a fixed fire, fixed air, fixed earth, and fixed water. And so even within the categories of the signs themselves, the elements of the sign themselves, there's an inclination to change, and some signs are more resistant to it. Leo's quite resistant, I should say, being fixed fire. And then there's some willingness to receive energies of change, and so that's going to be more of your mutable signs within the elements. Isn't that fun? And by the way, anytime you want to dig deeper into all of this, I did a whole year of astrological classes on YouTube for free. So you could literally go, and it's an hour per sign. And it's funny because I just met someone in New York who was like, I'm a Cancer, and I watched your Cancer astrology video last month with my partner who's also a Cancer. And I thought, isn't that funny? Like, people are still going back and enjoying that content. So if you want to know more about astrology and the mutability of your sign or the lack thereof, you might want to go back and watch that video about your sign. And then you can go back and watch your partner's sign, videos and your kids' videos and so on and so forth. I think Leos rule too, but you know what, Norma? There's plenty of people who would say that we don't. Jackie's turning 40 on Monday. Happy birthday to you, Jackie. I love my Cancers. I have to tell you. Cancers teach us how to feel, and I love that so much. I really, really do. So water signs tend to be very comfortable with rutilated quartz too, though, because remember, water is always trying to move us. Water is always trying to get us to create a smooth transition, and to teach us how to surrender and release while we move into deeper waters and explore what's new for us. So the water signs are good at this too. It's the earth and the fire that really resist and go, do I have to change? Fire's okay with it because we're the phoenix, so that we know if everything gets burned down, we're still going to rise and be able to come up from the ashes. It's earth signs, I think, that struggle most. Okay, so first rutile that was ever discovered was red. And so the word rutile actually comes from the Latin word for the word red. It's really funny. A lot of our gemstone names come from what our ancestors first saw. Lapis lazuli means blue stone. Did you know that? It's not like there's some sexy, history behind lapis lazuli. It means blue stone. And so we have all these names that we kind of think like, oh, it must be so magical. When we go back to the etymology or the study of the root of words, we realize our ancestors just said, oh, blue stone. And now here we are, thousands of years later, sort of stuck with the inheritance of that name. But here's what I want to tell you about rutilated quartz. By the way, some people use it to regulate mother's milk. I never used it for that purpose. But if you're nursing and finding that it's hard, that you're struggling to produce enough milk, it is said that rutilated quartz can help support milk supply and also regulate it. So I leave that with you. 2 things that the lines of rutile do. Are you ready for this? 2 things. And here's the lore about this, okay? It is said that if you receive a piece of rutile that has a ton of lines, a ton of bands, whether they're gold or silver or green or whatever color they are, if you received a piece that has a ton of lines, because we choose for you, right? What that means is you have a lot of change ahead of you. And it could be one big change or it could be 1,000 tiny changes, but it means that change is on the horizon for you. If you get a piece that has hardly any bars, maybe 1, 2, or 3 really big bars, my piece here probably has maybe 50 or 60 small lines, but the big gold lines, it has maybe 10 or 15, I would say. Most of the rutile is on one side. So it's proportional, right? So if you have a lot of change ahead of you, your rutile is going to have a ton of these asterisms or these little branches and bars. If this guy says, oh shit, mine had tons of change, that's actually a good thing. You know what I mean? So as soon as you pick up your piece, you already have a story. It already is telling you there's a lot ahead or there's not that much ahead, okay? Here's 2 things you can do with the lines, and we're gonna do this for just a minute together. It's funny, right? How it becomes sort of an intuitive reading for you. You can look at the line and ask, and you can pick a line to focus on, or you can ask your guides to direct your attention to one line over the others. And you can ask their lines for the root causes of disease. Now, do this for you. This isn't about anybody else, but if you want to understand the root cause of any disease in your life, any illness of any kind, doesn't have to be a disease. If you want to understand the root cause of an illness, you can choose a line or ask your guides to direct your attention to the line. And then what you want to do is you want to focus on that line without blinking as long as you can until your vision starts to blur a little bit and you start to go into a minor trance. You start to feel yourself sort of slip away from your conscious thinking for just a moment. So try that. Pick a line. Think about something in your physical body, a manifestation of some kind of disease or illness or discomfort that you don't know the root cause of. And then go in, find a line, I found one that feels right, and go in and ask, what is the root cause of that illness? What do I need to know today about why that occurred? And once you've found your line, if you don't want to keep focusing on it visually, you can put your finger over it and close your eyes. Let your mind kind of go blank for a minute. What is the root cause? And you can ask your guides to take you back to a specific place, to take you back to a specific time, maybe when you were first diagnosed with something, or maybe when you first had an experience of pain. And then are you ready for the healing? This is a shamanic healing technique using rutilated quartz, but it's very, very powerful. Are you ready? Are you there? Have you gotten back to some kind of root? Even if you just go back to the time when it happened, you don't have to know the why yet. Just go back to the time. Here's how you can change or shift your health with the stone. Are you ready? So go back into that line, focus your energy on the root, and then what I want you to do is imagine if you could go back to that moment when you first experienced whatever that condition is, the pain or the symptom or the diagnosis, whatever it is. Take a deep breath here. And I want you to imagine a different outcome to that story. Are you ready for this? This is serious, you guys. But only rutilated quartz can do this with you and for you. This is called changing the outcome. So, and what it does is it changes the nature of your relationship to the pain or the disease or the illness. What I want you to do is go back to the origin, the cause, the first moment, or whatever's happening, to the extent that you can. Go back to that first moment. And what I want you to imagine is a different outcome. So let's say you've got a diagnosis of whatever it is, arthritis. Can you imagine a different diagnosis where the doctor said it's simply a pulled tendon or a pulled muscle and you'll recover completely? Imagine if you were told something different about the outcome. If you were diagnosed with a disease, let's say you got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is not really a diagnosis, but a lot of people get fibromyalgia means the doctor doesn't know what's happening to you. But let's say you got diagnosed with that. Imagine a different outcome. Imagine going back to that moment and having the doctor say, you have pain and joint discomfort, but it'll pass. And by doing that, what you're doing, because the memory and the outcome of that moment when you connected first with any kind of disease or discomfort is still happening in this moment too. Okay, so when you change the outcome, you can actually change what happened. That's why I'm saying this is a very quantum form of healing, is to imagine changing the outcome of a diagnosis that reorients your relationship to something that might seem permanent but actually can become transient for you. Does that make sense? Yeah, so Andy's asking, what if you have a trauma instead? So let's try it, okay? So imagine going back to the origin of a trauma. Are you ready? Only do this if you feel called to do this. But let's imagine going back with the help of the siren. Imagine going back to the root of that trauma for just a moment, only if you're comfortable, and it's kind of a quick way to do it. You might want to do it when things are a little more quiet. Well, and Brandy, but listen to me, because I will tell you, I did this exact technique to cure a migraine for myself last week. I literally had a headache for almost 8 days straight. It was a migraine, a very recognizable migraine with the line patterns and everything. I did a similar technique to rid myself of the migraine, and it worked. And so I'll teach you that technique too if I have time tonight, or I'll do it in a future session. But there are lots of ways to change the outcome. Can you imagine? What if, so let's say you're having all this migraine pain. I mean, I was doing the same thing. So it's not like I'm ahead of you guys or more advanced. It's all a work in progress, right? So I was having my own migraine pain and I kept thinking, I have a migraine. And for as long as I kept thinking, I have a migraine, the migraine continued. As soon as I said, I don't have a migraine, this is just a tension headache and it's going to go away as soon as I relax. And I consciously relaxed, which means putting my shoulders down and taking a deep breath and imagining that my entire central nervous system was calm and peaceful and balanced. And as soon as I reoriented myself and said, this isn't a migraine, this is a simple tension headache and it's going to go away as soon as I relax. And it did. Now that may sound crazy, but have you tried it yet? Your mind is a very powerful thing. It's very much, Marcia, like neurolinguistic programming and changing personal history. It's very much like changing memories around anything. It's the same process. It's just using stones as a way to ground that practice. So it's very much that. It's just more of a tangible connection. You know what I mean? So it's very powerful. Now here's another thing you can do with your rutilated quartz. Are you ready? If you don't know what change is coming, okay, so you got one that has 1,000 lines in it, and you know that means there's a lot of change coming, but you don't know what that change is, one of the things you can do is go in and ask your guides to show you what's ahead. All of the stones of tonight, including rose quartz, and I really want you to remember this, all of the stones of tonight, and I would go so far as to say all of the tetragonal crystals, because I'm going to talk to you about the structure in just a second and why that is. All of the stones of tonight are fortune-telling stones, to the extent that they are all bringers of future wisdom, not just past, but future. And so you can look in and you can understand how you got where you are today, because this is a stone of all the change that brought you to your current position. You can also ask your crystals in meditation, are you a bringer of wisdom about the past, or are you a bringer of wisdom about the future? And if you're not sure, I don't have my pendulum here, it's across the room, but if you're not sure, take your pendulum and ask, are you a crystal that brings wisdom of the past, or are you a crystal that brings wisdom of the future? And let your pendulum tell you yes, no. And then you'll be able to learn what kind of transformation wisdom is coming through your stone. And that can be a very helpful tool for you. Teresa is saying basil oil is very helpful for migraines. Yes, it is. It's one of the minor ingredients in our migraine relief blend, which is a lifesaver. So while you are experiencing migraines, definitely work with aromatherapy. It can be a very helpful tool for you, for sure, for sure. Okay, so let me make sure I told you all the things I wanted to tell you about this. This will repel negative energy and balance your aura. So anything that is around you that is not in service to your higher good will be repelled by working with this crystal. So one of the things you can do is, and one of the things I like to do is when I'm first connecting to someone or beginning a new relationship with someone, whether it's a friendship or a work relationship, I like to work with this stone while I'm getting to know that person, because it's very helpful for showing me what the relationship is going to represent in my life. And it also helps me to discern whether the person is bringing positive energy, good energy, or negative energy. And if they're bringing negative energy, it will repel the relationship. And if it does that, you kind of have to go with it and recognize that that's the stone's own wisdom teaching you that. Yeah, so Suzanne's asking, can you do this with chronic illness? You sure can. And here's the thing, no matter, I have chronic illness too. I know the root of it because I've done a lot of this metaphysical work to understand, doctors can point to what the physical root cause is. In my case, with my illness, there was no genetic imprint of that illness in my family on either side. So I had to go in and figure out what the energetic causes are. Once I got underneath that, it was much more possible for me to heal myself on a quantum level. But you have to do this work. And again, it might sound weird to go in and dialogue with your stones and ask for information, but really what's happening is you're asking for information from your guides, and the stones become kind of a touchstone or a channel for you to receive that wisdom. It's not like the stones themselves are necessarily telling you. They become tools through which your guides can connect with you and can share information with you, which I think is really important. Yeah, pendulums are very important. You have to have one. You don't have to have 40 of them like I do. I start getting excited about things and then I end up collecting things, and then what are you going to do? Yeah, I'd be happy to, because migraines rob you of your joy. It's very hard to be happy and have a migraine. Have you noticed that? It's very hard to enjoy your life and also have your head like throbbing. And so many of us suffer from them. A lot of it's dietary. We're actually going to talk about migraines a little bit next hour in the weight loss class, because a lot of it is what you're putting into your body and not realizing that certain combinations of certain foods at certain times with other things and supplements and so forth can actually lead you down that road. So it's really important to understand the connection between all of these things too. Rosemary says she's not sure her pendulums work for her. Test them. Do a test, yes, no. If not, if you got it from us, you can always return it. Did you know that before we send you a pendulum, we actually ask that pendulum if it's for you, and we only send it to you if it says yes? And sometimes we go through dozens where the pendulum is saying nope, 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 and then we wait for the one that says yes before we send it. So we actually never get returns at Sage Goddess from pendulums because we pre-test them for people, and they tend to be very happy with them. But if you're just picking one up from a store, you should definitely run your pendulum and ask, are you the right tool for me? You know, are you the right divination tool for me? And wait till it says yes before you buy it. Okay, so that is your rutilated quartz. Now let's talk about apophyllite. You ready? Okay. The main thing I want to tell you about apophyllite is to work with it carefully. Apophyllite is a crown and third eye chakra stone. It's a 5 on the measure of hardness scale. If you drop your apophyllite, it will shatter. Interestingly, it will shatter in a tetragonal pattern. All of your crystals, when they break, and you may not be able to see this without a microscope, but all of your crystals, and even if, by the way, if you've got a pendulum from another store, still take it back and tell the storekeeper or the store owner that you're not feeling a connection with it. Most people who sell you a pendulum really want you to be able to use it as a divination tool. Most people will take it back so Sarah, have you seen the pendulum mats that we sell that have the yes, no? There's actually a picture of it on sagegoddess.com. We make our own pendulum mats here so that when you run it, you can see what the answer is. You might just look at that. It tells you the direction for yes and the direction for no, which is really helpful, especially if you're new to working with a pendulum. The mats are kind of good in terms of giving you direction. Okay, apophyllite. It's a 5 on the measure of hardness scale. Be careful. It will break in a tetragonal pattern, which I think is really, really cool. Again, interestingly enough, aligned to the air signs. This is Libra, Gemini, Aquarius. Tonight is all air sign energy, but again, tonight's all conscious connection to the divine. If you think about the people in your life who bring you closest to God, like who truly remind you of your faith, who are optimistic, who seem to have that sort of lightness of being, it's the air signs in your life, or the air signs rising, or the air sign moons. Like even for me, I feel like when I help people most, it's when I'm activating my Libra rising. My Leo fire is helpful in terms of teaching people tenacity and strength and stuff like that. But the teacher part of me is very much anchored in that Libra rising, which is all about teaching you that change is possible. And in fact, change is desirable. And you can always come closer to the divine. That's always your choice, how close your relationship is to God or goddess or however you think of the one that created you, right? So I love air sign energy myself personally. So apophyllite is from India, mostly. There are other places in the world where it grows. Ours are all Indian, which I feel is also the highest quality of them. Connects the physical and the spiritual realms. It is the best stone on the planet, as I told you, for astral travel. And we're going to talk about karmic information as well as Akashic information. This stone allows you to channel information from source while you are awake. A lot of stones, if you want to use them to hold and channel information from the divine, you're going to have to do it while you're asleep. That's true for a lot of stones. And this is one of the only ones that will do it while you're awake. This is a future-telling stone. Did you know, here's an interesting fun fact about apophyllite that you may not have known. Did you know that this is a stone that prevents fires? It's funny, fire has been a very active element in my life, my whole life. And in fact, my parents' restaurant, when I was 17, burned down. And it was, my parents are immigrants, so it was really all they had. It was a very, very scary time in my life. Because I'm a double fire sign, I've seen all this interesting iteration of fire energy throughout my life. And while this is not a fire stone, it's actually a stone that prevents fire. So some fire sign folks really find this difficult to work with because they find it sort of contrary to their own astrological nature in many ways. But did you know that there are places in the country, true story, where they use apophyllite to grid to prevent forest fires? Interestingly, isn't that fun? Just knowing that there's always magical people in the world, and somewhere they are in the forest using apophyllite to grid to prevent forest fires. With some success, I will tell you, based on the stories that I have read. So this is a fire-preventing stone. Isn't that interesting? True story. Now, here's what we're going to do. Usually we work with stones focusing on the top of them, especially when it's a pyramid like this, But actually what we're going to do right now is focus right here. I want you to turn your stone over, and I want you to look at the tip through the bottom of the stone. Does that make sense? I want you to look at the tip, but through the bottom of the stone. And this is why. When you look into the bottom of an apophyllite tip, you are looking at an energetic stargate, is the way that people refer to it. And so as you gaze, and again, gazing with your stones is really important. And part of it is when you gaze, you sort of stop being so conscious. It shuts off your conscious mind and allows you to dive more deeply into other states of consciousness that are deeper and more connected to a deeper state of meditation. I know, it's really cool. So I want you to I can't show you here because the camera won't pick it up. It's too light in the room. But I want you to look at the tip through the bottom. When you do that, what you are looking at, can you see yours okay? I want to make sure you can see the tip through the bottom of your stone. That tip that you are looking at is called a stargate. And this is your portal back to where you came from. Is this the coolest thing ever? This is why I love. Now, if you can't see the tip from the bottom, I want you to try as hard as you can to find it. If you can't, just look as far into the stone as you can. It doesn't matter whether you can actually see the complete tip. It matters that you can see at least a touch into your stone. That is the entrance to a stargate. Isn't it interesting? If your tip is broken off, it doesn't matter. We're not looking for how perfect your tip is. We're looking for, can you see into your stone from the bottom? You can't do this from the top. If you try to do this from the top, you're not going to see anything. You're looking in from the bottom. That is your point of return to where you came. And all I can tell you is, now I'm going to suggest tools for you, okay? Vision Quest perfume would be very helpful. Opoponax is going to be very helpful for this because Opoponax is such an important essential oil for accessing the stargate. You can anoint with your oils. You can anoint your stone with the oil. I do recommend, here's a little bit of protocol for you if you want to do an exercise with this tonight. We probably won't have time because I'm seeing we're almost at 5 o'clock and the weight loss class is starting shortly. What I want you to do is anoint with a visioning oil, whether that's Vision Quest or Pythia is another good one. You can use, like I said, Opoponax for this. You can use sandalwood for this too. I want you to anoint yourself. I want you to open a sacred container. So use your selenite all the way around. By the way, I have carved selenite wands coming this weekend to sagegoddess.com, so be on the lookout for that. And then I want you to focus your vision as far into the stone as you can. And when you feel like you have a clear image of it, I want you to try closing your eyes and still seeing with your third eye, okay? So as soon as you have that rectangular little door, by the way, you guys, it's so fascinating to me. The tetragonal crystals, they grow, they take a cubic structure and expand it to a rectangle. Do you see the rectangle in your apophyllite? That is the tetragonal structure of this crystal made manifest. How beautiful is that? The top of your apophyllite is actually the tetragonal crystal structure showing itself to you. I think it's so incredible. Okay, close your eyes, see if you can still see it in your mind's eye. And then what you do is you ask your guides to take you to that stargate and then allow you to pass through and expand beyond. And that's when, if you're ready, if you've opened the container, if you've set an intention for what you want to learn through that stargate, that's when, if you're in the right state of mind, which is why we do this at night, usually in dream time, that's when your soul can just fly. And then what you want to do is set a boundary. So I usually say I'd like to travel for 15 minutes and then return safely through the stargate back into my body with easily accessible memories of what I have seen. That's an important caveat. I want to travel through the stargate for 15 minutes. I want to return safely to my body afterward with easily accessible memories of what I have seen. Does that make sense to you guys? It's beautiful, isn't it? When you do it, I want you to post in the group and share with us what you find in your stargate travels. I think you're going to have a very profound experience doing that, and I'm excited to hear what you see. Last but not least, I'm going to move a little quickly because of weight loss class, but you know what? We may end up doing a full bonus session on astral travel. I'm suspecting that we will, in which case we'll probably pick up from this session and carry it forward in that bonus session. Okay, you ready? Rose quartz, heart chakra. Air and earth signs, yours comes from Madagascar. There are two places in the world where the finest quality rose quartz comes from. That is Brazil and Madagascar. This particular rose quartz comes from Madagascar. A good chunk of our rose quartz still comes from Brazil. The finer quality, where you have stars in the rose quartz, where you have that really juicy girasol, a lot of that comes out of Madagascar. So when you see super translucent rose quartz, most of the time that's not from Brazil. And that's part of why I chose Madagascar as the source for this, because I wanted these to be translucent. And if you notice that it's beautiful quality rose quartz. It's not super milky, and that was very intentional on my part. Well, so Haley, there is something different on the other side of that door for everybody, because while the universe itself is somewhat uniform and very structured, our experience of the universe and our spirit guides and our own spiritual path is very unique. And every time you cross the Stargate, you're going to have a different experience. It's never the same. It's almost like shamanic journey work with ayahuasca. People think they're going to have the same experience every time. It couldn't be more different every time. So you just never know when you cross. That's why you want to do it safely. You want to do it, with your guides, with their support and their presence. Is all very important. The color, the pink color in your rose quartz, comes from inclusion of titanium as well as manganese in your quartz. So that's what takes clear quartz and makes it rose quartz, is titanium and manganese, which are stabilizing and very healing minerals. Manganese is one of the most healing minerals on the planet. In fact, sugilite is an ore of manganese that grows in South Africa. So some of the most healing stones on the planet are actually stones that grow with that particular mineral. It counteracts all negativity. It balances yin and yang energy. It stabilizes partnerships. If you're going through conflict in your marriage and you're not using rose quartz, you're not doing a service to your relationship. It can actually heal fractures in romantic bonds with a love partner. It heals PTSD as well as trauma, and can be used in change the memory healing sessions, just like I've been showing you today. Shamanic healing sessions where you change the outcome as a way of balancing the memory. And so it's called a recoding stone. Recoding. So here's what I recommend. And like I said, we'll pick this up. We'll do a bonus session and come back to this conversation. What I recommend is, if you're going to do astral travel, take all three of these in with you. This is going to help you to recode your energy and to balance your relationship, your partner's relationship. This is going to help you enter the Stargate safely and return safely, as well as ensure your connection to source energy. And this is going to help you manage the change and transformation that's going to come from having seen what's available and accessible to you on the other side, which I think is really, really powerful. You can see how they all three work together. Now, what does a tetragonal crystal structure have to do with that? Tetragonal crystals take a cubic structure and expand it to a rectangle, which is exactly what you're seeing here. It's the manifestation of that tetragonal structure. And what they do to grow is they send out a lattice, and then it sends up rectangular structures to follow that lattice. And so some people call it the stepway or the stairway to heaven. These are ascension stones, because the way it grows is not the typical way that quartz grows, for example. It grows in this lattice stair step in this rectangular structure, and so it's literally pushing itself to the heavens. Isn't that gorgeous? That's why I love the metaphor of connecting so powerfully to source energy. And you could for sure use it in distance relationship healing. One of the things you could do is a beautiful thing to do actually would be to have two pieces of apophyllite that you're working with, charge them together, maybe connect them to rose quartz, and then separate them. Have you keep one, your partner keeps one, and see if you can cross the Stargate together. Can you imagine? I mean, doing that remotely from different places, saying, we're both going to do astral travel tonight. We're going to cross the Stargate and see if we can connect our energies in the astral realm. It's very possible, and I actually think the potential for healing in a relationship that way could be profound. Really do. So good, right? Do all of this laying down? It's a great question. Sheila's asking, should we do this while we're sitting up or laying down? It just absolutely flew by, didn't it? But I'm telling you, I think there's enough here for us that we should actually come back and pick this up. There are a few other stones that would be helpful for astral travel, and in that session we could actually connect it to the aromatherapy of astral travel too, because scent is such an important talisman. It's such an important touchstone, because as soon as you smell something, it brings you right back. And so one of the things you can do when you want to come back into your body is set a diffuser, for example, to start diffusing oils into your room or into your space to just bring you back via the scent. Lots of different ways to bring yourself back. You can actually set a timer. There's lots of shamanic drumming apps that you can use too, which it's a very easy way to come in and go out. And the drum beat sort of keeps you aware and conscious and connected. But apophyllite, here's the thing with apophyllite, I want to leave you on this note. And then I'm going to jump to the weight loss class and see you there. The thing with apophyllite is it's always going to keep you safe. Apophyllite will always pull you back through that stargate. So you don't have to worry about going off to some realm where you can't get back. It's one of the beautiful properties of apophyllite is it will help you travel safely, which is very, very important. Okay, you guys, I'm going to jump to the next class. I'm already a little bit late, but I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much for being here. This is a really fun class. It went by too fast, but we'll pick up where we left off before too long. Thank you for your patience, you guys. I'll see you soon.